A Memorial Day weekend mystery. What happened to Diana Shawcroft and Jennifer Lueth? The two teens reported missing from Glendale in May 1996.
The search is on tonight for two missing Glendale women.
They have no money, they have no food, they have no clothes.
This is the last place the two 19-year-olds were seen back on May 24th, the night they got into an old blue truck with a man and disappeared without a trace.
We have some remains that were obviously found up in Yavapai County.
We know somebody did this.
There needs to be some justice somehow for what happened to them.
Their remains ultimately found in Yavapai County months later, but nearly 30 years have passed and there are still no answers. What happened that night? It's a question the Attorney General's new cold case unit is hoping to help answer. We sat down with multiple agencies and Diana's sister, who was one of the last people to see the girls alive.
And we haven't really talked about it in a long time like that. So I can't believe I'm still talking. But it's time. She deserves some justice. Or we all do, really. And anybody else that may be hurt by whoever did it.
Tina Frigo lives here in the Valley. Processing what happened nearly 30 years ago to her sister has been a decades-long journey.
She was such a sweet soul. Probably one of the kindest souls you'd ever know. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Just was good to everyone, honest, loving, caring, loved her family. Didn't have a mean bone in her body. Everybody called her Diana through everything, but us family members, we called her Dee Dee.
In 1996, Diana Shawcroft had recently moved to the Valley from Loveland, Colorado, at first staying with her brother before begging to move in with Tina. At 19 years old, what was she doing? What were her plans?
Well, her best friend came to visit, so their plans were to have a good time and hang out. And I was the big mean sister that was like, get a job. I can't do this. We're in a one-bedroom apartment. I love you guys, but, come on. So, but they were into having, fun and going out and meeting people. And Diana, or Dee Dee, did have a job at Burger King.
Diana's best friend was Jennifer Lueth, both 19 years old.
Yeah, they had gone to school together. I think they met in grade school, like when they were like 5 or 6, so too long. But she was supposed to come and visit and then just never left, decided to stay.
The apartment was near 59th and Camelback. Tina says when it came to safety, she worried about the girls.
And I kept telling them, you guys, you're not in Loveland anymore. You got to be really careful here, because Loveland was a lot smaller, a lot safer. Everybody kind of knew everybody at the time. And I'm like, it's really different here. You got to really be careful. I had been here, quite a few years. I went to high school, and like Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. I kept saying, you're not in Loveland anymore.
When you go back to that night, 1996, I know it's decades ago at this point, almost 30 years. What do you remember?
That was probably when I'm thinking back, it was a terrible night for me because of the way it all ended. But I had actually gone house shopping that day, and I had gotten home kind of late. I was exhausted. It was hot. I had actually put an offer on a house, and I was completely grumpy and tired when I got home. And Jenny and Diana and Dee Dee just wanted to go do something and were begging me to take them and let's go hang out, give us a ride to the store. And I'm like, you guys, I'm tired. No, I had said no. And the very last thing Dee Dee said to me was, I can still see her face and her head around the doors. Tina, please come with us. And I said no.
The girls walking down the road just a few blocks to a mini-mart near Diana's work. But this is when the mystery begins. The two teens never came home. You had no idea when you woke up the next day that anything really had happened.
I mean, should I have? No, but was I absolutely terrified when I woke up and they weren't home? Yes, because it was so out of character. So I started calling hospitals mainly hospitals, and I did call the police almost that morning within a couple hours, just because that gut feeling and that I just knew something was really wrong. But since they were adults, they had to wait a certain amount of time, and and that sort of thing. A lot of it was a blur. I finally reached out to my dad and had my dad come over, and things just kind of started to go from there. I was terrified to reach out to Jenny's parents because I didn't want to alarm them for nothing. So I don't remember the exact amount of days now, but it did take me a handful of days before I even let them know, which was horrible for them, afterwards, but I didn't know.
What was going through your head? Was there hope that maybe they were two 19-year-olds just, maybe still off, kind of seeing where the wind takes them?
Honestly, from what some of us, yeah. My mom was in California. She came within days, though. I don't exactly remember the perfect timeline. She definitely was full of hope. Jenny's parents drove out and were very full of hope. For some reason, I just had that feeling that this is not okay, and I think my dad felt more on that way too. And it was Memorial Weekend, and we were hoping maybe, there was a little bit of hope.
You were a police officer. Would you think somebody ran away with unpaid checks or uncashed checks?
From their own home?
Driver's license, credit cards, no clothes, no makeup.
They have no money, they have no food, they have no clothes. They're in short shorts and tank tops.
Both families spoke with ABC15 as they searched for the girls. In the first few days and weeks, a few important clues emerged.
This is the last place the two 19-year-olds were seen back on May 24th, the night they got into an old blue truck with a man and disappeared without a trace.
Stay tough, honey, stay tough.
I'm not going to find nothing.
In 1996, Diana Shawcroft and Jennifer Lueth's families desperately searching for the girls. Police only had a few small leads from people that were near this Glendale mini-mart where the girls were last spotted.
Somebody at the mini-mart thought they overheard the two women talking about going to a party somewhere in this area.
The biggest clues coming from witnesses, including a 14-year-old Robert Cruz. He had been sitting nearby with friends on that May evening in 1996.
With his help, police now have this sketch of a man seen leaving the store with 19-year-olds Diana Shawcroft and Jenny Lueth.
Next thing I know, they got up and both went into the car.
Police are not calling this man that Robert saw a suspect, but Diana's father says this sketch so far is the best lead they have.
Even though he's 14 years old, it's amazing the perception of somebody that age if they're interested.
But it would be months until the girls were found. It was a heartbreaking discovery outside Maricopa County.
We have some remains that were obviously found up in Yavapai County, and we're still conducting our examination for identification and for determination of cause as best we can, and that process is still underway.
Hunters finding the teens' remains in a remote location. When you think about that and where they were found so far away from Glendale, what was going through your head?
Everything. You start thinking about any type of scenario, good to bad, to horrid to horrific, which obviously was the horrific. My brain went to a lot of hopefulness of maybe it was just an accident that went wrong and people got scared and didn't know what to do. And that's what I still hope it is to this day. It helps me have a little bit of peace with it. I hope and pray it wasn't just some horrific act. But yeah, you pretty much go through every scenario.
With the two girls found, this was no longer a missing persons case.
Things were a lot more aggressive on my end since I was the last person to see them. So not only was I dealing with the grief, I was dealing with the person of interest, is I think what they call it now.
Yeah, what was that like?
Oh, sheer hell. Yeah, that was really, really hard. Because like I said, I was there on a daily basis, interviewed for hours over and over and over again. I remember finally saying, just arrest me. Do you want me to say I did it? I'm like, what do you want me to do here? I'm like, quit spending your time with me. Like, let's find out who really did this. But, so after about 3 months, I did say no more. I couldn't take it anymore.
But Tina did visit the site where the girls were found in December of 1996 with other family together making a small memorial.
There's a sense of peace here for me. I think about the girls and their spirits.
ABC 15 was also there.
Whoever committed this crime went through a lot of trouble. The area is incredibly remote and rocky.
And that we know somebody knows, and we know somebody did this, and we wait for that day to find you.
In the years following, Tina's family continued to share the teen's story and push for justice.
Diana's in a better place. I think all of us accept that. You know, it isn't about doing anything to help her at this point. But there's still a lot of questions that need answered, and it may help from my family.
Tina and Diana's dad, Roger, even trying to help other families with missing kids, like 11-year-old Mikkel Biggs, who disappeared outside her Mesa home in January 1999.
This car salesman is also a grieving father, who more than 2 years ago felt the same pain that Darren and Tracy Biggs are now living.
Just bring her back, please. You know, that's our little girl. We love her.
It's an unsolved murder at this point.
Shawcroft is still searching for his daughter's killer, but he's also making time to help find Mikkel and be there for her parents.
Both are now two major cold cases here in the Valley. But years after Diana and Jennifer were found, another twist in the case. Tina says the memorial they created was tampered with.
There was a picture frame with a picture of Diana, Dee Dee, and Jenny, and the pictures were gone. So they truly believe whoever did it went back.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's how they get caught as well.
As an older sister, Tina carried guilt for a long time. Eventually, she was able to go back and work further with detectives.
It was just hard for me to be asked those hard questions, at the time. And once I realized that, once I had a break and can breathe, it made it a lot easier to go back and talk.
Do you now have any kind of theory? Do you think the person in the pickup truck is the person that could have done this?
I have no idea. I don't know. And I have no idea the person who that could even be. I know that detectives over the years have had a few ideas, and just from combing through people I knew and things like that, and none of it just ever made sense.
Both Shawcroft parents passed away, never knowing what truly happened to Diana.
My mom actually passed a year later in the same month. Heart failure is what's on the death certificate, but we all think, it just killed her. She just couldn't do it.
I know you mentioned your dad passed away and you kind of were having those conversations with him. Do you think that, at the end that was something he thought about?
I better breathe, I'm gonna fall off the chair. We kind of knew, he was going downhill, so. Anyway, we said goodbye to each other, and all he could talk about was having closure when he saw her again in heaven. And how much he needed that.
True closure is something Tina still doesn't have.
I mean, there was some closure, and so we had to do some of the grieving process, but there was never really full closure, and it's been ongoing, so it's been almost 30 years of grieving.
Earlier this year, she learned her sister's case is being reviewed by the state attorney general's new cold case unit. Decades later, could the missing puzzle piece be closer than ever?
New evidence can be old evidence that is now being reviewed.
The last thing we know is that these two young women were seen entering a blue pickup truck with a male, never came back to their apartment home, and were found by some hunters up in northern Arizona.
Glendale police have been working along with the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office on the Diana Shawcroft and Jennifer Lueth case since 1996. The two teens spotted in Glendale, but found in a remote area of Yavapai County, 100 miles north of Phoenix.
It was in August of that same year that they were discovered, and their bodies had already decomposed by then. So it's difficult, it's frustrating, and we want to find out who did this to them.
The summary of Diana and Jennifer's case says police believe the killer had personal knowledge of that area in Yavapai County and was either very strong or there was more than one person involved.
In Arizona, there are too many families who are still searching for answers.
This year, the Attorney General's new cold case unit announced they were reviewing 5 cases, one of them Diana and Jennifer's.
I was happy to hear, and I am so grateful every time I hear that they go visit the site or put more out there or have it on the news or what they do. But I don't typically dive into the specifics of it or visit it or go any further than that. I just decide to be grateful it's still out there and still being worked on.
Diana's sister, Tina Frigo, struggles with maybes and longs for concrete answers.
Shawcroft and Lueth is a very intricate case.
That's something Roger Geisler, the supervising special agent for the AG's new unit, also wants. This case is one Geisler knows well.
This is not a forgotten case, that we continue to try to solve this case.
That YouTube video shared by Glendale nearly 13 years ago when Geisler was working for the police department. Once again, speaking about the case, believing someone out there may have the details they need.
We don't know, what the girls were doing. We don't know what happened, and then how did their bodies get quite a distance away and in a desert, kind of a remote desert area. Given that movement from such a long location, somebody either saw or heard, or the people involved talked about that, whether they were hunters or somebody up in that area. It's just all those things that we believe somebody has information out there.
I asked about the possibility of new evidence the AG's office has said is being analyzed.
New evidence can be old evidence that is now being reviewed. Items that may have been tested before can be retested, and new evidence, being new DNA, could be discovered and therefore bring this case to a closure.
Yeah, and can you tell us anything about what that was? Was it clothing that was found at the scene or something that was found that couldn't have been processed back then?
So I can't go into the evidence that we have in this case, but I can tell you that, again, with reviewing the DNA, that's the biggest thing that we have to our advantage. Even in any cold case, that technology changes in DNA, where 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you needed a lot of DNA to come up with a profile. Now the DNA has changed, the technology has changed, where just a very, very small amount can be identified.
As the waiting continues for Tina, the Valley mom says she's only recently found her own path forward.
I spent a lot of years there, 2018, I think I just had that epiphany, and I had to make choices to move forward because I was kind of stuck there in that grief that entire time. And I had my kids, and I couldn't live like that anymore. So like I said, I'm very, very grateful, but I guess in my mind I still just want to know facts. I just want to know what happened, and until then, I'm going to be grateful for everything everybody's doing, but there's nothing more I can personally do.
If someone else has this information that could be crucial, what would your message be to them?
As hard as it is to come forward, it's that much harder for so many other people that have lived all of these years through this. And I think it'll probably bring them peace as well, as it will all of us, to help bring some closure and some justice. Whether it was a horrendous, murderous attack or whether it was a terrible, terrible accident that nobody knew what to do, I think everybody will feel more peaceful if there was just some closure.
The Attorney General's office sat down with us this year to talk about all 5 of the cases their new unit is reviewing. We have more information posted online. If you have any information, you are encouraged to call and can do so anonymously through Silent Witness. We will cover any developments with this case here on Arizona Crime Uncovered. Thank you for watching Arizona Crime Uncovered. We're working to bring awareness to crimes where victims are still awaiting justice and also provide an in-depth look at cases still unfolding. Each episode breaks down a timeline of the case, where it stands now, and if any help is needed from the community. You can watch on ABC15.com, the ABC15 mobile app, Roku, YouTube, or any of your other streaming platforms.